When we think of Anne Frank, we usually picture a young girl hiding away, pouring her heart out into a diary. But that's really only half the story. In her final months, Anne became something more, a conscious, masterful author who is deliberately shaping her own legacy. So let's dive into this incredible and often overlooked final act of her life. Anne actually wrote this question herself. It's such a powerful line, right? You can feel the teenage insecurity, but there's also this incredible self-awareness to it. Little did she know, the answer would be, well, pretty much the entire world. This one question really sets the stage for the amazing transformation we're about to talk about. So at first, her diary, which she famously nicknamed Kitty, was exactly what you'd imagine. It was her private confidant. It was this totally safe space where she could write down her fears, her frustrations, her first crush, all the day-to-day realities of being a teenager trapped in hiding. This was for her and her alone. But then, in early 1944, something happened that changed, well, everything. And it wasn't something that happened inside the secret annex. It was a voice, traveling hundreds of miles over the airwaves, coming to her through a crackly radio signal. This was it. This was the moment. A Dutch minister, broadcasting from London where he was in exile, got on the radio and made this passionate appeal. He asked people to save everything, their letters, their diaries, so that after the war, the world would have a real record of what they had all suffered. For Anne, hearing this was like a lightning bolt. And this is where her whole perspective just flips. Her private thoughts suddenly had a public purpose. Her diary wasn't just a collection of her feelings anymore. It could be testimony. It could be evidence, actual proof of what was happening, not just to her, but to millions. This idea just lit a fire in her. Suddenly, Anne wasn't just a girl in hiding. She was a writer with a mission. She started on this hugely ambitious project right away, to go back and rewrite her entire diary, editing it so that one day it could be published. And get this was not just a simple spell check. This was a serious, full-blown literary project. She went all the way back to her first entries, working to make the story flow better, to sharpen her observations and make them more insightful, and even to change the tone to sound more mature and focused. She was literally crafting a narrative. And we're not talking surface-level edits. She went deep. She looked at her own flaws with a critical eye. She analyzed the complicated relationships in the annex, and she wrote with this newfound clarity about what it meant to be Jewish. She was exploring these huge ideas about life and fear. And you have to remember, she's doing all of this with the startling maturity of an adult author, but she's only 15 years old. So you see what's happening, right? All this hard work, all this meticulous rewriting, it wasn't just about becoming a better writer. It was about defining how she and the millions of people she felt she was now speaking for would be remembered. She was taking control of her own legacy. This chart really nails the whole transformation. On the left, that's the original diary, a private place for the personal feelings of a girl trapped by fear. But look at the right. That's her new vision, a public testimony from a chronicler of truth. Her diary transformed from being about fear and confinement to being about documentation and literature. And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? Her ambition to be a writer or a journalist, it wasn't some childish fantasy to pass the time anymore. After she heard that radio broadcast, it became her calling. It was her purpose. Even trapped in that annex, she could see a future for her words, a future where they could reach out and actually mean something to the world. But of course, we all know the tragedy that looms over this story. This period of intense, brilliant creativity, it was all happening under the shadow of a ticking clock. This timeline, it just puts everything into perspective. It's heartbreakingly short. She only had a few months, from the spring to the summer of 1944, to take on this massive literary project. All of that incredible, purposeful work was cut short on August 4th, when they were discovered. Her masterpiece was left unfinished. This quote just says it all perfectly. In the most powerless situation you could possibly imagine, she found a way to take back her agency. By picking up that pen and rewriting her story, she took control. She decided that her experience wouldn't be defined by fear or silence, but by the powerful literature she could create from it. So in the end, we're left with this. Anne's work wasn't just a diary. It was a deliberate, powerful act of creation and of resistance. It proves that even in the absolute darkest of times, the simple act of shaping our own narrative is one of the most powerful things we can do. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What can her final determined act teach all of us about the power of writing our own story?